is going to figure out a way to subliminally tell us some off, bruh. We seen the display the other day when she walked past reporters with her face up against the wall like this. Like she ain't want to talk to nobody. Well, I'm here to tell you, we finally get locker room footage. Now, this is something that we have not seen throughout this entire tournament. Videos of what is going down inside Team USA locker room.
It was meant to be just another standard qualification, but instead it became an unexpected chess match. Despite breaking records, one player was inexplicably benched. Fans panicked, the offense slowed, and questions remained unanswered. Then, like a thriller's plot twist, a new coach showed up and everything made sense. The apparent became indisputable all of a sudden. What, then, had been seething beneath the surface? And why did it require an abrupt upheaval before the truth took center stage?
This is very profound. Now, in the footage that I'm about to show you guys, you're going to see Caitlin Clark not talking to anyone. Head down like this. Everybody else going to be laughing and joking and playing. But she's going to be very serious. Now, I believe this footage was taken before the game, possibly after the game. But to me, it don't matter when it was taken. It's letting us know her attitude while in Puerto Rico, I should say. Now,
it's not that Caitlin Clark was in charge. That was what everyone anticipated. The awkward thing is that once someone stopped overanalyzing things, it was quite simple. Because Clark's greatness is no longer a question. Between 5 shattered records and a 55-point demolition, that discussion quietly ended.
Welcome to the Bandano Podcast, where we're calling a spade. Great to be here with you guys today. What did I just watch? What happened? Where was all the transition offense from yesterday? Where was all the team ball from yesterday? Non-existent today. You know what happened? I'm just speculating here. Kara Lawson, preparing for today's game, she got tapped on the shoulder. Tap, tap, tap. She looked behind her, and there she was, staring at Kara Lawson.
The true question is who made the initial decision that she needed to be toned down, and why it required a coaching hiatus before common sense returned. Let's begin with a section that, regrettably, sounds like fiction but is not.
That Caitlin Clark is stuck on the outside looking in, and I feel like I have an idea why. Be honest with you guys, I believe there's some agenda going on. I believe Kara Lawson is back coaching Duke, the head coach of Team USA. She wasn't even there today. She wasn't even present, okay? I believe Nate Tibbetts was told you do not start Caitlin Clark. Chelsea Gray is the starter no matter what.
As Team USA begins its qualifying run, Clark enters the international arena as if she had been waiting her entire life for this precise opportunity. Not establishing her groove, not adjusting gradually, and not easing in, as analysts like to say when they are buying time. She instantly changes the course of history.
So Team USA just had an impressive win yesterday over Italy, in which Caitlin Clark came off the bench to give us 12.5 assists, had a handful of turnovers. Overall, a good game. The entire game changed the minute she got in there. I had every game does these things. Caitlin Clark has a problem. Number one, she's too good. She's running circles around people. She can drop 30, 40 on your head. 15, 18, everybody catching and scores. She's a problem. She changes the entire pace of the game. It's ridiculous. And then on top of being good, she's also global. She's iconic.
5 records in a single game, not accumulated over time like mementos or dispersed during a competition. 1 appearance, 1 stat sheet, and a loud declaration to the whole basketball world that she is not participating. She's coming to make things right. Any sensible coaching staff would now say, this is the engine now, after observing that performance. The system is this. Going ahead, everything is centered on this. Rather, what came next felt more like a group project than a strategy, with no one wanting a single student to perform all the work, even if that student completed the assignment in 5 minutes. Kara Lawson then took action that can only be characterized as aggressively democratic in response to this historic explosion. Rotation began to change. Minutes started to fluctuate. Additionally, The player who recently made history in international basketball began to spend time off the court or even away from the ball. As though all of this constituted a more comprehensive philosophical assertion regarding justice. On the surface, it sounded noble. Everyone is worthy of touches. Everybody is entitled to rhythm. Everybody is worthy of their moment. This is a lovely concept until you consider that you are using it on a player who has just used the entire game as her own highlight reel. It was similar to finding a Formula One car and choosing to drive it in a school zone since the other cars might feel excluded.
What's going on, my Flyby family? It's your boy Izzy. Welcome if you're new. Hey, my neighbor was just grilling over there, and guess what he grilling? Hamburger and steak. Hey, there might be some beef in the air tonight, man. No, in all seriousness, man, some of y'all have been hitting me, asking me, Izzy, what is your take on this Caitlin and Angel situation, the USA basketball team? What's going on here? Can you give us some insight?
Then the moment of the press conference arrived, which added a little suspicion to the whole situation. Instead of responding to a straightforward question from a reporter regarding Clark's role, Lawson gave a masterclass in saying a lot without actually saying anything. Since no one was unsure whether the team had talent, the response veered into generalizations about teamwork, shared responsibility, and how every player on the roster is used to being a star somewhere else. All of these statements are technically true, but they have nothing to do with the question posed. Why the most effective player on the floor was being treated like a guest in her own offense was the source of the uncertainty. At this point, everything begins to feel more planned and less coincidental. Because Stephanie White, who also happens to be Clark's professional coach with the Indiana Fever, is in the same coaching ecosystem. You already recognize the pattern if you have been paying close attention. Reduce the speed of the game. Get Clark off the ball. Don't let her manipulate an open area too much. Transform a generational playmaker into something a little more restrained. You may refer to that as a stylistic preference on an individual basis. Basketball fans may disagree on everything, but they are adept at seeing when something is wrong. So when they get together, it begins to appear as a common ideology. And what they were witnessing was a team that appeared electrifying when Clark was in charge, and oddly apprehensive when she wasn't.
What Stephanie White said? Slow it down, coach. Slow it down. You see all the publicity Caitlin Clark's getting today? Did you see the news? Everybody's talking about Caitlin Clark. We can't have that. The transition offense, Caitlin Clark making passes that nobody in the league has ever seen before. We can't have that. Slow it down, Carol Lawson. Switch it up. We got to make everybody else shine. We don't want her. Everybody else needs to shine. Today's night, gonna be Paige's night, and Angel's night. Yeah. What a brutal game, folks. What a brutal.
It was supported by the numbers.
It was screamed by the eye test.
Whether or not Clark had the ball in her hands was the only simple factor that caused the tempo to change drastically. Even the most ardent conspiracy theorists were unprepared for the story's shift at this point. Carl Lawson was gone just before a crucial game. Nor ceremoniously replaced, nor gently phased out. Just gone. There was no satisfactory conclusion, no big announcement, and no obvious explanation. The next day, she is not on the sidelines at all, and Nate Tibbetts enters that very handy void. One day, she is there, carefully controlling rotations and avoiding direct answers. Tibbetts did not, however, arrive with a manifesto about team balance or a lengthy speech about philosophy. In this instance, he took a much more drastic action. He selected the best guy to start after reviewing the squad. That was all. There was just a straightforward, almost blatantly clear basketball judgment, no drama, committee decision, or passionate discussion about justice. When Clark begins, everything that had been difficult suddenly becomes quite easy once more. The ball moves, the offense flows, and players who before appeared a little uneasy now appear to have rediscovered how to play basketball. The spacing gets better, the pace quickens, and the system as a whole begins to work like it was created by a point-scoring enthusiast. The lineup, which includes Ryan Howard, Paige Beckers, Angel Ree, and Kelsey Plum in addition to Clark, makes sense right away. And it's not just a victory that follows. A 55-point rout, 101-46, is a statement masquerading as a scoreboard.
So people think Caitlin Clark is getting iced out on Team USA, but she's still leading the team in points and assists. I've seen the clips everyone's posting. Moments where it looks like Caitlin Clark is wide open and not getting the ball. Or another player is pushing the ball up the court instead of letting her initiate the offense. But here's the part people are missing. This roster is loaded. You got elite guards like Chelsea Gray, Kelsey Plum, and Paige Beckers. You also have players with completely different styles like Angel Reese, who naturally push the pace when they grab rebounds. So when you have a roster this loaded with talent, there's gonna be an adjustment period.
The kind of outcome that, since it is no longer theoretical, terminates debates as well as a game. You can't claim that this strategy might be successful when another strategy just resulted in a demolition that resembled a varsity squad playing against a group that only met 5 minutes prior to tip-off. However, the true moment, the one that caused everyone to shift uneasily in their seats, came after the game when Nate Tibbetts did not act like the typical coach. He didn't sidestep. He didn't use ambiguous words to conceal himself. He did not use courteous ambiguity to defend the old system. In plain English, he admitted that the team needed stability, that the rotation adjustments had not worked, and that the lineup with Clark and the other key players made sense. In coaching parlance, this is about as close to stating, "Yeah, we overcomplicated this." The whole situation changed in an instant. What appeared to be a philosophical discussion turned out to be a highly preventable error. For reasons that no one can entirely explain, what was formerly described as team balance began to feel a lot like holding back your most productive player. It is now hard to ignore the rippling effects, because there is more to this than a single international run. This has to do with what comes next, particularly in the WNBA, where Stephanie White continues to lead the Indiana Fever. A highly visible comparison is currently on the table. On the one hand, you have a system that seeks to establish equilibrium, slows Clark down, and reassigns her duties. Conversely, you have a method that instructs you to give her the ball, let her see the floor, and watch what happens. One creates clumsy stretches and perplexed belongings. The other generates 50-point victories and performances that smash records.
All right, Nate Tibbetts took the podium today to address things about the game. Caitlin Clark not starting. I believe there's some agenda behind this. Let's make this very clear. Chelsea Gray has started all 3 games. We have seen Angel Reese start games, Paige Becker start, Kelsey Plum started, Jackie Young started. We've seen everybody start. I think Stephanie White started one of the games. It's been absolutely ridiculous. We watched Kiki Iriafin get a start. It's only a couple games left. They said that they was rotating everybody into starting lineup and doing this and doing that.
The unsettling aspect is that everyone witnessed both versions in real time, which makes the upcoming WNBA season feel more like a test than a continuation, because they are now anticipating a decision rather than merely hoping for progress. Do you focus on what is obviously effective? Or do you reaffirm a worldview that was recently discreetly revealed on a global scale? The larger question that looms over all of this is another. What will happen to Team USA in the future? Does Carl Lawson go back and try to restore the old system in the hopes that something would be different this time? Or does Nate Tibbetts get the go-ahead after arriving, making one clear change, and instantly revealing the team that everyone had anticipated from the start? Because this decision is no longer solely a coaching one. It's a philosophical one. It comes down to whether you build around your best player or attempt to assign responsibilities in a way that seems equitable but is ineffective. Furthermore, it is becoming more difficult to pretend that this is a complex question given everything that has recently transpired, including the records, the benchings, the disappearance, the blowout, and the unintentional disclosure of 2 entirely different strategies. This is because the most straightforward version of the story is also the most illuminating. Everything began to function again as soon as someone stopped attempting to restrict Caitlin Clark.
Of the game.
I thought it was good. I thought we started off a little slow. I thought our second unit came in, it was really good, and then I thought overall in the second half we were pretty good.
Returning back since July, how's your body feeling? You got a lot of rhythm.
Feel good. Obviously, 5 games in 7 days is a true test and see where my body's at, but so far I feel really good.
Playing at a national level, although first time, how has it been so far with the fans here in Puerto Rico?
It's been great. I thought our game, especially versus Puerto Rico at 8 p.m., was a really fun one for us. The fans have been great. Fans that have come from America have been awesome, so anytime you get to put this jersey on, I think it's a really fun thing. You take a lot of pride in it.
The whole basketball world is now staring at one extremely unsettling realization. What precisely were they doing before if it was always this simple? At that point, the story becomes less about basketball and more about a covert power struggle that no one wanted to acknowledge was taking on. Because the discussion changes from what works to who made a different decision once the outcomes are that clear. Suddenly, every previous choice begins to appear slightly different in a more favorable light. It no longer feels like innocuous experimentation when Caitlin Clark stands off the ball like a very qualified spectator. They seem deliberate. There were times when the offense slowed down and appeared to require a GPS in order to locate a basket. They don't appear to be growing aches anymore. They appear to be the inevitable result of depriving the one person who knows exactly where to drive of the steering wheel. This is where things become even more problematic because Clark never voiced any complaints. No mysterious social media posts, dramatic interviews, or passive-aggressive body language intended for slow-motion replays. For anyone attempting to defend restricting her role, she did the most inconvenient thing imaginable. The contrast became unavoidable as she continued to produce, while remaining silent. The squad appeared to be a machine built for speed and accuracy when she was fully engaged. When she wasn't, it appeared to be a group of gifted players taking turns doing something that none of them were supposed to be leading at that precise moment.
You got like a lot of rhythm.
Feel good. Obviously, 5 games in 7 days is a true test and see where my body's at, but so far I feel really good.
Playing at a national level, adult first time. How has it been so far with the fans here in Puerto Rico?
It's been great. I thought our game, especially versus Puerto Rico at 8 p.m., was a really fun one for us. The fans have been great. Fans that have come from America have been awesome. So anytime you get to put this jersey on, I think it's a really fun thing. You take a lot of pride in it.
Because it made everyone else explain the inexplicable, Clark's quiet ended up being louder than any criticism ever could have been. And the consequences are just beginning now that Nate Tibbetts has inadvertently made this into a case study. The front offices of the WNBA are observing. Analysts are rewatching movies as if they were researching a plot twist they didn't notice the first time. Fans are making connections between things that might not have been made this fast. In the midst of all of this, Stephanie White finds herself under a microscope that is far less comfortable than it was just a few weeks ago. Since theory is no longer relevant in this situation, long studio parts cannot be used to discuss preferences, philosophies, or stylistic disagreements. It has to do with proof. You now have a clear side-by-side comparison of two strategies that provide very different outcomes for the same player. Control the pace, spread the responsibility, and make sure everyone stays involved is one strategy. Give the ball to the most talented playmaker on the court and let everyone else profit from the mess she causes, adds the other. The unsettling reality is that just one of those strategies managed to deliver a 55-point declaration on a global scale. Imagine what will happen when the Indiana Fever return to the court, as this is where things might rapidly get very interesting.
He loves this girl. She was getting fouled yesterday, and they were apologizing to her for fouling. This is a problem WNBA doesn't know what to do with. Instead of embracing Caitlin Clark, they would rather try to hold her down, suppress her talent, make it seem like everybody's on the same playing field when anybody with a brain could see that's not the case here. It's not the case. Here we are, getting ready to go into the 4th game, Team USA, and we are wondering if Caitlin Clark is going to start. And it's ridiculous because we know she's better than Chelsea Gray.
When the attack does arrive on time, players like Aaliyah Boston, who is anchoring the paint, may dominate inside. Shooters are positioned throughout the floor, ready to take advantage of passes that most players never even try. Additionally, you have a fan audience that just observes what transpires when everything is correctly unlocked. There is no pressure there. With receipts, it is what is expected. This time, it won't be silently accepted if the system changes back to something slower, more controlled, and strangely similar to what was recently shown. Because the alternative is now visible to everybody. They have witnessed the version in which Clark is directing rather than only participating. The tempo seems unrelenting, and defenses are panicking rather than merely responding. It is also quite difficult to persuade folks that anything less is somehow a better option once they have seen that version. In the meantime, Carl Lawson's predicament is still a mystery that won't go away, since the longer there isn't a clear explanation, the more room there is for conjecture. Was the timing right? Was there a conflict within? Was it something entirely unrelated that coincidentally coincided with the tournament's most contentious rotation choices? Since no one has provided a definitive response, everyone is filling in the spaces on their own. Furthermore, quiet does not help to defuse a situation like this. Everything is amplified, particularly when the substitute arrives, makes one significant adjustment, and produces the run's most dominant performance right away.
It's just the build-up to games is probably the hardest part. Like, once you're in the game and you're playing, you're flowing, like, you don't think or realize anything else. It's almost the build-up to get to that point. So I think that's kind of, for me, like, getting back in kind of that routine of how you prepare on game days and things like that. But I think after the first and second game, it will be, like, second nature, like it's always been. So more than anything, just really excited to be good.
Once you start those games, it's 5 games in 7 days. Just how are you going to ramp up to that and just make sure?
I guess we're going to find out, like, really quickly, like, what type of shape I'm in. And
that contrast is not subtle. Because this is now a larger tournament, that kind of contrast compels organizations to make decisions they may have wished to postpone. Identity is at issue here. What does Team USA want to achieve in the future? A high-powered offense centered around a generational talent who has already shown she can lift everyone else simply by being herself, or a flawlessly balanced system where everyone takes responsibility equally. It is nearly difficult to overlook the irony in all of this. It's possible that the effort to improve the team's balance instead decreased its effectiveness. It's possible that the attempt to divide authority led to confusion rather than unity. And as soon as those restrictions were lifted, everything fell back into place, as if it had been waiting for authorization all along. The discussion now returns to the same awkward query. This time, however, it is stronger, more distinct, and supported by indisputable outcomes. If the obvious solution was always to unleash Caitlin Clark, then why did it take the disappearance of the head coach for anyone to act like and subscribe?